The college football playoff will not extend past 12 teams, but there are changes, and we do see an appetite for extending the playoff. Let's talk about what is going to change for the 2026 season, why Notre Dame should celebrate being the first team that received a bid to the college football playoff already, and what I expect will happen in the coming years to a format that is only growing. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, answer the question in the comments below. Do you want to see the college football playoff stay at 12 teams or extend to 16 or even 24? We do know that there are changes that are coming to the 12-team college football in playoff in 2026, just as there were changes after its first iteration in 2024, where we saw that seeding the teams and not going by the rankings that the college football playoff selection committee put out really made the whole thing a little off balance. So much so that you had Oregon in a bad spot, having to play Ohio State out of the gate. But we also learned that having that first round bye as one of the top four teams seeding or ranking, so we went to straight seeding in 2025, really didn't help anybody but Indiana. And that was only for the 1 year. We know now that it's going to be construed as a disadvantage when your team gets one of these first round buys and then has to take 3 weeks off not playing football and then have to play at a neutral site, even if they're the home team. Meanwhile, the teams that have got the home game have fared pretty well in the college football playoff, winning 7 out of 8 times. Now, Indiana's bucked that trend, and Indiana was the only team in 2025 to buck the trend of being able to beat a team that they previously beaten in the year again in the playoff. Georgia couldn't do it to Ole Miss. Oklahoma couldn't do it to Alabama, so forth, so on. We also saw Indiana make an unprecedented run at being the first 16-0 team since 1894 and giving the Big Ten a third consecutive member who's won a national championship, while the SEC continues to be boxed out. So as we went into the college football playoff, one of the things that was interesting about this is, does the balance of power swing so far to the Big Ten that they get the 24-team playoff that they want? And the Big Ten is not moving on this. It very much wants an extended 24-team playoff, so much so that it was willing to extend the 12-team playoff this year to 16 if there was an agreement to extend that format to 24 teams in the coming years. There's little to no appetite for that among the other 8 conferences in college football, led by the SEC, who wanted a 16-team playoff and not a 24. What I find interesting about that is just how much the other conferences are lining up with the SEC. Now, the Big Ten and the SEC have basically the majority of votes on what to do here, and they got to be in alignment to get something done. But it does give you some insight into how administrators and other conference commissioners view the 2014 team playoff right now, which is to say that the Big Ten has a lot of work to do to continue to sway people to believing this is a good idea. I have said and will continue to say I think it's an excellent idea. I think the 2014 playoff works at the FCS level, and I would love to see something like that model make it to FBS. The way it works in the FCS is if you win your conference, you get an automatic bid to the college football playoff or to the FCS championship playoff. Then they seed the teams 1 through 24. What is cool about this is a team like, or say a conference like the Pioneer League, which is a conference made of non-scholarship athletes. They do not extend them, right? And because they usually don't get the best players, but they always have a champion, and that champion always gets to play. That champion very rarely makes it out of the first round, and everybody knows this, and it's understood. It's okay. But if you get a Drake that goes on a run, or a UC San Diego that goes on a run, everybody's excited about that. Meanwhile, North Dakota State, Montana State, South Dakota State, and the like, Illinois State this past year, continue to charge right into the FCS national championship game. The format that the Big Ten has pitched is not similar to it, except to say it is 24 teams, and they're extending the number of auto bids to the top 4 teams based on the standings in the Power 4, and then 2 at-large teams for the group of 6, and then 6 at-large teams that the committee gets to select. This season, what they are willing to do for the 12-team format is introduce auto bids for the conference champion of the Power 4, regardless of the ranking. So what does that look like? Well, this year it would have, or I should say this past year, it would have been Indiana as the Big Ten conference champion, Georgia as the SEC conference champion, Texas Tech as the Big 12 conference champion, and then Duke as the ACC conference champion. How would that have impacted the college football playoff this year? I don't know that we would have seen Miami. Why? Because along with the conference champion in the ACC getting a bid, Notre Dame being ranked inside the top 12 would also receive an automatic invitation to the college football playoff because they have an agreement, contractual binding agreement with the college football playoff board of managers that says if they're ranked 12 or better at the end of the season, they're going to get into the playoff. And because we use straight seeding, they would probably go in at whatever their ranking is. So if they're at 9, they'll go in at 9. If they're 12, they'll go in at 12. If they're 6, they'll go in at 6. Whereas a team like Duke would probably slot in to one of those spaces that would be occupied by James Madison or Tulane. We can argue about the merits of that for a very long time. I know that there is quite a lot of animosity toward the idea of auto bids or making an exception for a team that we feel qualified. I think this is 2 ways to go here. I think the conference championship game should matter beyond who wins the league championship. And I love playing for championships, and I like that the leagues crown them by playing a conference championship game. Number 2, you're not going to get rid of conference championship games. You're not going to get rid of conference championship games because they're extra inventory, and extra inventory that you can sell ads for. Sell ads for means you can increase the revenue. Increase the revenue means you can increase the revenue sharing, grow the pie, means everybody gets richer. Okay. You are going to watch the conference championship if you're a Big Ten fan or a fan of a team in the Big Ten, I should say, in the same way all across the board. You're also going to moan and complain about it, and that's okay. That doesn't matter. Not to me, at least, because Indiana versus Miami pulled the second highest number for a national championship game since we started playing the college football playoff. 30 million people watched the national championship game last Monday. I also think that number could be bigger if it's played on a weekend and it's played at night. But we're not going to do that in this sport for at least the next 4 years because every one of these games is played in late January and played on a Monday, which I think is ridiculous. I wouldn't put a national championship game on Martin Luther King Day, period. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't put any game on Martin Luther King Day. It's a Monday, and Monday is more synonymous with the NFL, and it's not where people's headspaces really are. The time to play that game is either January 1, when everybody's really thinking about college football, or even further back in the calendar so you get a real ramp up to it. But no one really has an appetite to push this thing further. I mean, we're going to play a national championship game at some point here, January like 27, 28. Next year, it's in Vegas. Now, could they change the format to the college football playoff for the 2027 season? Yes. But to do that, they got to get it done by December 1, 2026, which feels like a soft date because ESPN allowed the board of managers to push back this date to January 2026. I should say 26 to January 26th of 2026. It's January 23rd, and they're already coming to, we're just not going to get this done. So could we see 16 teams in 2027? Sure. Are we likely to see 24 teams? Not at the moment. But right now, I think the headline is auto bid for the team that wins the conference championship, and there is an appetite for 16. It's just whether or not the Big Ten is going to allow that to happen.